Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone out there, wherever you might be. Welcome to another episode of the Causal Takes Podcast. I'm Greg Coleman, and before we get today's episode started, I just wanted to do some breathing exercises with y'all. So join in with me. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. All right. Now that I got some tension released off, y'all, it's time to finally get into it and tell the truth, really. We're in dark times in Philadelphia at the moment. The Phillies finally put me out of my misery this past Thursday, but we still lost in terrible fashion. And my recap of all of that is going to be coming soon, so be on the lookout for that. But this is an Eagles episode, and so we're going to be talking about that. Last Sunday, when the Eagles lost to the Broncos, I was disappointed and I was a little hurt. Not gonna lie, especially with how the Phillies had lost on Saturday. I thought the Eagles would give me a little bit of consolation, and that did not happen. Going to Thursday, I expected us to beat the Giants. I expected it to be a good game. I expected for the Eagles to have a bounce back type of game. I was wrong. Not only did the Phillies let me down on Thursday, but honestly speaking, the Eagles let me down even worse. The Giants, of all people, the New York Giants. I was talking all my stuff for this past week, and it just got thrown back in my face. I didn't think that we would lose to the Giants. I thought we were going to have a comfortable win. I didn't expect us to get embarrassed out there, not gonna lie. We looked lost on the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, but we also did not show up in the special teams aspect either. And to begin the game, the Giants came out firing. I gotta give credit to them. They didn't pay attention to any narrative that their team has been sticking to for the past weeks. I mean, they just lost to the New Orleans Saints. And on the offensive side of the ball, Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo seem to pick apart everything in the Eagles' defense. But to the Eagles' credit, I'll say, for the first half at least, they were fighting back. We saw ourselves in a continuous one-score deficit. And going into halftime, I was thinking maybe this game would be a shootout, or maybe the Eagles will be able to respond from the poor defensive play up to this point. But as we've seen this entire season, this Eagles team is yet to play a full quarters of football as we know it. This time around, they didn't even come out the locker room. I mean, to be honest with y'all, the Giants opened up the half with a second Cam Scatterboo touchdown with one of the worst tackling attempts I've ever seen out of Adoree Jackson. While down 10, you would think that the offense would play with a little bit more urgency than what they showed me personally. But to the Eagles' offense credit, all we got were our absolutely nothing burgers of usual 3-and-outs and failing to move the ball down the field. In the third quarter, we only generated 10 yards of offense, which is pathetic. Going into the fourth quarter, we were still down by 10 up to this point. And with a little bit of life inside the Giants field, it gets taken away. Jalen throws a near pick six, and the Giants get the ball back. Cam Scatterboo gets his third touchdown of the game, number 3. Up to this point, we get the ball back, and we're trying to move the ball down the field to threaten with a comeback. Maybe wasn't going to happen, but try and get a comeback, and we get the ball and we fumble. Up to this point now, we've given the ball up. We've given the ball away. The Giants have the ball and they run the ball out for the rest of the game. And really, what was a nightmare for Philly fans all over, it's finally put to rest. And I don't really have a lot of takeaways from this game, or not necessarily a lot of good takeaways. But similar to last week, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for how I've been spicing this team up. These past 2 weeks, I don't know what I've been looking at, honestly. They're clearly not on the same page, as I said last week, but it was even more evident today from just all of the mistakes, not being able to tackle, just not showing up altogether. There was no effort on any side of the ball. In the big 2025, we lost to the New York Giants. Like I said, I spent the entire week guaranteeing that the Eagles were going to come out with a win, and they just proved me wrong. And it just hurts. It hurts. And not only do I have to face all of the ha-has from Giants fans, my LBs especially, but the entire NFL community is now dunking on my Eagles. And it just hurts. It hurts. So this week, there wasn't anything good to talk about. Like I said, there wasn't anything good to take away from this game. And so really what I'm going to be talking about is everything that I saw that upset me from this past Thursday. And you already know where I'm going with this. Y'all already know where I'm going with this one. And so, first person I got to talk about. First thing is first. Kevin Patullo. I'm honestly tired. I'm honestly tired. I'm tired of the poor play calling. I'm tired of talking about you every week. But most importantly, I'm tired of the fact that you're the one calling the plays. As I did last week, y'all, I just want to shoot some numbers to y'all. Yes, we still lead the league in 3-and-out rate this year. And it's quite pathetic, too. But in the second half, the Eagles had 5 drives. First drive, 3-and-out. Second drive, 4-and-out. Third drive, another 3-and-out. Fourth drive, interception. And in the fifth drive, our final drive of the game, is a fumble. I mean, just give it up. Give it up for this Eagles offense, y'all. Give it up for this Eagles offense. They looked amazing out there. They did not. They did not. Like I said, in the third quarter, we only were able to gain 10 yards, which was pathetic. But we were also outgained in this game from the Giants' offense, let alone 97-10. We're not just predictable on the offensive side of the ball, but we look lost while doing it too. We have seemed to abandon the diversity of this offense as we know it. Depending on how Jalen is lined up, whether it's under center, whether it's in the shotgun, whether it is in the pistol, defenses immediately know what play is going to be called, whether it is a run or a pass. We spent all off season with the mentality that last season did not matter. Why am I still seeing plays from last year? If last season did not matter, where's the new playbook at? Why are we sticking to the same four plays that I also saw last year? This is an absolute disgrace of professional football as we know it. And really, I've been saying this about Kevin Patullo all season long up to this point, and really isn't going to change. But if there is one person to blame here, it has to be Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni, you hired in house. Do you remember how Brian Johnson did in Philadelphia? Do you remember how Sean Desai worked out here? The reason why, for Nick Sirianni specifically, the reason why hiring in house doesn't work is because you're bringing in coaches that share your same offensive philosophy, which is flawed. It's flawed. I remember I said last episode that it would be in poor faith to fire Kevin Patullo at this point in the year. I was wrong. I was so wrong about that. I need them to fire Kevin Patullo today. I need him to pack his bags and get out of Philadelphia. Please. I ask of that. I've been saying all season long that Kevin Patullo, he needs to lock in. He needs to figure it out. There's no excuse for how bad this offense looks at this point in the year. All in all, this play calling, this style of play calling that I'm seeing out of you, you may be the reason why this team not only underachieves this season, but could also revert to the 2023 Eagles that were not only dysfunctional, but when they were collapsing in the way that they did, they looked lost too. And so it seems like we're getting that same product. And I just don't know what I'm seeing right now. It is a disgrace. It is a disgrace. So, like I said, I hope you get fired. But while you are the one calling plays, I'm going to continue to ask you to please figure it out. Do something. But moving on to another aspect that I didn't like in our offense. Jalen Hurts. My GOAT finally had a bad game. Was this game his fault? No. I do not think it was his fault. And I'll go into more detail about that. Was the overthrow to Devontae Smith a drive killer? Was the near pick six a nail in the coffin? Both of those things I would say yes to. I would absolutely agree with you that those were important factors into why we lost the game. Multiple things can be true at the same time. But ultimately, I don't think it was his fault. The biggest issue with Jalen Hurts right now, as I see it, is that he isn't being schemed the right way. The only time that he's under center is either for the tush push or for one of our gadget plays like the swing pass to Dallas Goedert that you've seen. And when he's lined up in the shotgun or pistol, it's obvious what play is going to be called. I mean, they've pointed it out. Lane Johnson pointed it out. And everybody up to this point has been saying that this Eagles offense is predictable. So I can't give Jalen 100% the blame for it. While I believe Jalen is the driving force of this team, he isn't exempt from criticism. Not at all. Not at all. But being that you are one of the leaders of this team, and like I said, you are the driving force of this team, please figure out how you're going to be comfortable on the offensive side of the ball. Figure out how everybody can bring the most out of this offense. I miss the RPOs, the play actions, and all the different ways that we can bring the most out of Jalen Hurts. But like I said, y'all, I'm not giving Jalen 100% of the blame, as I feel like some of these struggles fall back on Kevin Patullo. And after such a bad game, I think it's time to regroup with these 10 days that they're given, regroup and pick apart what went wrong. What also went wrong this past Thursday? The defense. I've been calling y'all elite all season long, and this is how you repay me? I understand. I understand that we were missing Jalen Carter. He was out. I understand that Quinyon Mitchell got injured in the game as well. I completely understand that. I'm not going to excuse it though. There is no reason why the Giants offense looks like the 2007 Patriots. There is no reason why the pass rush was non-existent. There is no reason why the defense as a collective just did not show up. 366 yards on our head. They allowed the Giants, which, by the way, are ranked number 27 in the NFL, entering this game in touchdowns scored. On the first 4 drives of the game, we allowed 3 touchdowns. We allowed 3 touchdowns to Cam Scatterboo alone. And I think it starts off with some of the personnel on this Eagles defense. Zach Bond, he did not have the best game. And I do expect him to snap out of it. But I want to talk about some recurring themes on this Eagles defense. Keely Ringo, Adoree Jackson. Both of y'all are sorry excuses for defensive backs. I haven't talked about Adoree Jackson since week 1 and how bad he looked in that Cowboys game. And somehow, some way, you come back into the conversation. I ask the New York Giants, given we just played y'all and everything, can y'all please take Adoree Jackson back? Y'all please take him back. We don't want him. We don't want him. And I haven't been high on Keely Ringo really at all this year, especially when he's seen the field. But the entire game, I kept seeing both Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo, their names getting called every single play. And this is because they were targeted every single play the entire game. It was a headache. It hurt seeing them get targeted so much. It felt like James Bradbury. All of the bad corners that I've seen in my time as being an Eagles fan they're on that same tier. They're on that same tier. And Howie, whatever you need to do, please see that both Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson never have to put on an Eagles uniform ever again. Please. But apart from our secondary and how bad they looked, This game was a prime example of when one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong ultimately. And this is really an example of how I said that the Eagles defense isn't going to bail out or save the Eagles offense every time. This was an example of that. The defense did not come to play. We all know that. That is a fact. But ultimately, why we lost as bad as we did is because the offense has yet to show up this season. And it's just been a common theme with how bad the offense has just looked at this point in the year. Moving on to week 7, I expected the Eagles defense to bounce back from this performance. So I don't expect them to not be as bad as they have been against the Giants. This week, they're going against the Minnesota Vikings. And after an abysmal performance this past Thursday, the Eagles go into Minnesota after a very long 10-day break. While the offense is yet to show up this season, the defense has a lot to prove, as I just mentioned. My expectation is that the defense isn't going to give bad performances. My expectation is that the Eagles defense isn't going to give abysmal performances like they did this past Thursday. I expect them to have a lot to be mad about, have a lot to be pissed off about, I should say. And my casual take for this game is that it's time for the Birds to snap back to reality. These past 2 weeks have been really a figment of all of our imaginations. And now it's time to play some real football. While I expect a big day out of the defense, there are some concerns on how the defense may look this Sunday. Whether you have J.J. McCarthy in the game, whether you have Carson Wentz in the game, pass rush is still going to be a major concern going into this game. We saw how Jackson Dart was able to run wild against us and really made our defensive line look like Swiss cheese. But how would they respond off of that? J.J. McCarthy uses his legs really well. Carson Wentz has experience of using his legs efficiently also. So, defense, how will y'all respond? How will you guys respond off of this? But the receiving core also is better than the Giants also. I mean, that's just a fact. You have Justin Jefferson and company on that receiving core. And so, does that mean our secondary is going to be baby food once again? That's a huge question that I have going into this game. But the ultimate question that I think we all have going into this game is what we're going to see out of the Eagles offense. For the past weeks, I've been predicting that the Eagles offense breaks out and we see our best game to date. But it just seems like I've just been hoping that they do up to this point. And it seems like this going into this week too, it's going to be the same thing. So, is this the week that they figure it out? Do we finally call plays worthy of winning a football game? Do we finally play a full 4 quarters of football also? That is yet to be seen. The Vikings have been shorthanded up to this point this year, and they finally get some of their key players back. As I mentioned, JJ McCarthy might be back, but he isn't 100% either. So we are yet to see about that. They can easily expose us the same way that Denver and New York did. And so will they expose us the same way that they did? My expectation is that for this game, the Eagles will come out with a win. I fully expect that. I expect us to be back and really right the course of a bumpy ship this year. Like I said, we'll be back. Mark my words. You can note it. You can do whatever you need to do. Clip this, save it. Do whatever you need to do. We'll be back. So, here's to a bounce back win this week. So, really, I could finally start talking my stuff again. Especially before we go back into Philadelphia against the Giants again. I want to see it win. And so, let's do that. Please. Let's play some on brand football that I expect y'all to play to. The Super Bowl hangover is not a real thing. I promise y'all. I promise y'all. But next time that y'all see me, it'll be a reaction to everything for Eagles Vikings this past week. And it'll also be an episode coming out this week, like I mentioned, from the Phillies' major collapse. But moving on to around the league. The Jets are now 0-6. And they had one of the worst offensive showings in their franchise history. With a new coach, I did expect some growing pains, and, it's something that's going to happen. But their offense honestly looks worse than the Eagles' offense. And that is hard to hard to replicate, honestly. That is hard to do. And like I said, Jets fans might as well be looking on to next season. Better be preparing for their mock drafts. But also in the AFC East, the Patriots are now 4-2. I praised Drake May last week, talking about how he made the winning plays for the Bills. And this week, he's turned me into a little bit of a believer with them being 4-2 now. They might make some noise in the AFC. Watch out. But overall, I like what I'm seeing out of New England. I like what they're building with Mike Vrabel at the helm. Dallas. What happened? What happened? Y'all talked so much after we lost this past Thursday. Just to get outperformed by the Panthers. Carolina Panthers. I guess beating the Carolina Panthers isn't for everybody. Just saying. And Rico Dowdle said, buckle up. And y'all still didn't. So, let this be a reminder to y'all to mind the gap in the division and stay in your lane. That's all I have to say about y'all. On to the Colts. Shout out to Daniel Jones and the Colts. They're now 5-1 and look to be favorites to win the AFC South, as I see it. And from what it looks like, Sean Steichen is building a winning culture in Indianapolis. But, with how everything is going on with the Eagles offense, I miss him. On to the Bucks. Like I said, I was wrong about Baker and Tampa Bay as a whole when I gave my predictions for the Eagles-Buccaneers game. They seem to be contenders in the NFC up to this point. But with that being said, Baker also seems to be the MVP frontrunner as well. Fun fact, though, their only loss was to the Philadelphia Eagles. Just saying, y'all. Just saying before y'all start dogging us. But that's all I have for today. Like I said, next time y'all see me, it will be a reaction to the collapse from the Phillies this past postseason, but it'll also be a reaction to everything Eagles Vikings. Additionally, next week it's tip off week. And so y'all be getting some Sixers content too. So be on the lookout for that. But make sure to follow, like, and share on all platforms. And as always, y'all, go Birds.